Can we go into this real quick? I've been feeling like so many fucking things I've noticed in the past. I just never really kind of like said because when you have inferences based off of like everybody in the world, you kind of like, and it's based off of what you would go through sometimes and what you would think because of people's, you would think what people go through in their situations. I don't know, but anyway, it's like now it's like I don't really feel like you know how I did before. Like I feel so much more like at ease with myself with this, and I guess because I learned from other crossdressers online that it's like you know you kind of have to know what it is. I think that's why people really like these terms, the gender terms that people have out here nowadays, is because you're dealing with an explanation, or you can just say this shit, and it's hard because a lot of the thoughts that like a lot of us have are like internal thoughts, internal expressions we want to express, but the way we have to do that is through conventionality. So like we like attach gender to those things, and so then like we might be like, oh, that's transgender then, or whatever, cross dressing or whatever. And see, to me, like all that's the same now because I kind of went through all that shit. Like I thought I was transgender at first, literally thought I needed to transition and do all this shit, and then like I ended up just cross dressing in so many words. Didn't know what cross dressing was, and then found out like I was a cross dresser through like I don't know what to call it, but like I was watching YouTube videos and basically I don't know if you know who Rob Fleming is. I was watching like Rob Fleming's videos about like anagonophilia and autogynephilic transsexuals and fucking like homosexual transsexuals, and and then that theory came into play, and so you kind of basically saw perspective for the first time. You didn't really know that you were following. You saw a perspective, and now it's like now that I know that it's just perspective, it's time for me to make my own perspective. And then now that I have my own perspective, especially as a person that's actually doing these things, it's like so many different things have just kind of like laid itself out to me. And so I guess after cross dressing, I like stopped cross dressing because it came from me wanting to be transgender. And then when I found out that I'm not transgender because I'm anagonophilic or whatever, because I wasn't like, a homosexual, I'm not flamboyant and all this shit, especially at the time, um, it made me feel like because of that I couldn't like, I wasn't transgender and I was just a crossdresser and that I was anagonophilic to some degree, and that if I continue doing this, I would basically want to transition. And since I am a 6'2", you can say overweight or obese, chiseled jaw, linebacker built type of guy, it's like there's just really no reason for somebody like me to want to be feminine. It doesn't compliment anything about me. And, when I think about my life, that's pretty much been my whole fucking life. And then like it just kind of dawned on me now because I'm in this place where I don't have anybody, and I'm living out of my car, and it's like I don't have anybody anymore influencing me. Like nobody in my old like neighborhood. I moved out of my old city. Like I don't have like my mother, people I might know and see. I don't have anybody here that I really care to like not show this to. Like it's like I don't care. You know. And so that's how I kind of feel right now. And so it's allowing me to think about things differently. And so, like, when I first got into this, like, I got into this because I was attracted to transgender people. You know what I'm saying? As a guy. And I was having a lot of, like, red pill, MGTOW, like, incel, like the bad incel, like Elliot Rodgers type of thought processes and shit about women because I felt like, I wasn't getting sex from women, and I was a virgin as an adult, a young adult, and I felt like, it was, sort of looked for, like, it was like, I don't know, like I've been disgraced, or disrespected or dishonored as a man, and so Like my mind warped, and even that thought process, like I can go into that, but I have to just tell you what it is because I've done like the research so much and I've looked into this so much, reading articles about the scientific research and all this type of shit. Like, so it's like so many words. Like males, just we change. Like, like I'm 28 now, and it's like I've never had sex with a woman. And it's like I just think about that. It's like that's not normal. Like that's not normal. And if you don't have like a good outlet, if you don't have like, it's not even just that. Like some men have like higher testosterone, which means a high libido, which I think I have because I still pleasure myself all the time. And it's just like I feel like, and even my partners, I think about it sexually. Like I was kind of always more sexual than them. I always wanted it harder and stronger than they did. I don't know. So maybe that I feel like basically all this has fed into my thing. I think basically what happened to me was I was just a guy, and I can't see the thing about it is it's so complicated because you don't know. When I was younger, like I lied to myself the first time. I was like, yeah, like I was fucking feminine, I was flamboyant. I always wanted. No, I wasn't. I was more like a tomboy, but as a boy, you know. I think because I liked my older brother and I admired him, but some things about him it was just too manly. I used to call him mean a lot. Like you were really mean, and I used to go play with my sister. And my sister was kind of tomboyish too, so she would like be willing to do shit, be willing to do shit. You know what I'm saying? So we do all these things and shit together and shit, like play in the mud and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, but like when it came down to it, I wasn't as like manly as my like brothers, but I wasn't like flamboyant though. Think of like kind of like a pompous asshole, like some rich stuck up English fucking guy or something like that. Think about it like that. Like when you think about it like that, that's when you see like okay, like that's kind of like I was. I'm trying to think of a character like Carlton when he first met like Will in the First Prince of Bel Air, like how he was like almost kind of like feminine, if you will. Not really, you know. It's kind of like that. So that's how I was growing up. So it wasn't like and then I had those times, but I think what happens is this is my theory on it. Like I feel like when you're young and you like have aspirations or I don't know what to call it, but it's just inside of you. You know that you're like feminine. You want to be feminine. They would say trans kids nowadays or whatever, right? But it's like that's what you know. But some kids, I feel like, were like complimented with that. Like they could be with the females and play with female shit, without like being considered weird, And I feel like the ones that did, were considered like weird, not considered weird, but that was like known to be weird. They just didn't say nothing about it, Because I remember growing up and I didn't know what gay really was, but I knew being gay was bad. I literally knew being gay was bad versus like I didn't even know what gay was, like So yeah, I remember I remember like I thought being gay was like being too affectionate or something. I don't remember. It was like I was a little kid, and I'm telling my dad like, "Oh my, our sister's gay. She's gay, and she's like 3 years old." And I was like, "What?" Like, my dad was like, "What?" Even I was kind of like, "What?" Like now that I look at it now, I can't even understand what I was talking about back then, obviously. But that's how I felt. Like I felt like, oh, like I don't know. So yeah, so like I don't know. I had a lot of moments that were extremely fucking gay. Like I was a gay kid. Like like fondled with other guys' penises and whatever. Like as a kid, like doing stuff like in the fourth grade, the fifth grade, and the sixth grade. Like honestly, but mostly in the fourth grade. That's when I like fucking sucked my first dick and shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? The fourth fucking grade with another fourth grader. Like, that's literally what happened. Like, we were gay as fuck. Like, I don't know. I don't know what to say. All I can say is that like that's what I've always like done. And then like I always kind of like threw it aside. Like, oh, you're not supposed to do that. Like, it's bad. you know. And then like I don't know, that's just childhood. Fast forward now, it's like I'm seeing things differently for myself. Like I thought I was always like heterosexual, and I literally was like in like the first grade. I had like this girl. I used to go underneath this like table and shit, and like rub on her legs and shit, and like finger her type shit, like rub her like whatever pat her like genital area. I would like touch her and shit. She was a really bad girl, and so she was like of course she was down, like but it was just like the fact that it's like I literally like was into her. And then like I remember like forcing this girl to kiss me in like the second grade. I like, grabbed her face and kissed her. You know what I'm saying? So and I got in some trouble for that, of course. She didn't want to talk to me anymore. But yeah, so it was things like that that was like really like I don't know, like I liked women. I always liked women. High school, I tried to get girlfriends. I had girlfriends in high school actually too, two girlfriends. I was just like, and it's like, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, like my first watching of porn and all that stuff, like with women, it's like I've always liked women, like always liked women. Love women still now. Like it's just that it's like I don't know, like I never had any sexual encounters with women. Like I literally didn't. I literally like my sexual encounters with women are always so awkward. It just doesn't like mesh. Like something's always like the problem, and then like I guess my feelings or her feelings become too extreme, and it just fizzles out. Um, so I don't know. It's just weird, and it's like turning into terms, but you're like being gay. Like I like really like feel like I'm gay. Like because it's like I really like guys, and I've always liked hanging out with guys, being around guys. Like it got to a point where I knew when I was like out of high school, I was like telling myself like I really don't like being around girls. It's kind of like one of those things that you're just like, oh man, if like this my friend was like the opposite sex, this would be perfect. And like that's what kind of like happened. You know, like in my mind because it wasn't getting no action from women. Like maybe if I would have got action from women, like life would have turned out differently, but I never did. And even when I did, like have like relationships, if you will, like friend, I guess romantic relationships with women, it's like I've actually one really as an adult, and it was just like I felt like I just did not like her. I didn't like her. Like I didn't like the femaleness. Like you know what I'm saying? Like it's like I don't mind. It's hard to explain this. I don't mind the prettiness. It's just that when women do certain things, it's like, what are you doing? It's just too much. And then like with women, it's like it's more like a self entitlement thing because of the attraction that's already been established. So like we feel like we owe each other shit. We don't owe each other shit, And then women, always kind of seeking that from men because men are always bragging about having that wealth. It becomes like this gender thing, and that's the problem. I feel like is the most issue for me, like the gender thing. It's not the attraction necessarily, but because the world we live in, you know, those things take place. Like in other words, I could be attracted to women, of course, right? But it's like we live in a world where it's like there's a reason why people are attracted to people, and it's like you're warping your brain and you're kind of going in between things. But it's like so many words now. I realize like I feel like I'm just more attracted to like men. I think my sexual chemistry and energy works better with men when it comes to being like transgender or cross dressing and shit. Like I feel like I was trying to be a woman. I felt then I got dragged into cross dressing. Didn't know I was a cross dresser. Then I found out and like quit. And then I came back in and I just as a cross dresser. But now those feelings of being transgender have like also came back with that. And so I had to find out what I'm comfortable with. And right now I'm comfortable with like the term like gender fluid. Like, I can be male sometimes and then female sometimes. But I feel like that's not really what I want. I feel like all the time what I really want is just to look more androgynous. Like I want to have that non-binary look to me. That's I think predominantly male, if that makes sense. Like I want to look like Michael Jackson, if you will, like Prince almost. Like you look, like snatched. Like if I can look snatched, you know what I'm saying? Just like, but not really like that. I want to look realistically beautiful, you know, elegantly beautiful throughout my whole body, not just my face, everything. So, like, I'm thinking about hormones now. I'm thinking about a lot of other things, and I just realized like I'm sexually compatible with men. Like I just am, you know. Versus like women, it's like oh my god, I don't have the patience for that. Like I don't have the patience to sit here and like speak into a chick and like try to like talk to her in a way where like I'm not. I just want to like count. I don't know, like with guys, just like you're horny, I'm horny. Let's do something. If you don't want to do it, whatever. Like with women, it's too much going on. Too much you're getting dragged into, and it's just not something. My social chemistry is not like that. Like I'm that way. You know, I'm that way, and not just in that sense of like femininity. I can do it in a masculine way. So it's like it's just not really something I want to do anymore. Um, yeah, and that's what I'm realizing now. Like I'm attracted to men. Like just attracted to men. I'm pretty much a gay male at this point, and I never thought I'd be gay. I never thought I really would be gay, and it's like I am very much gay. You know, at this point because the way people are, it's like it's just not gonna work. You know, it's just not gonna work. It's just like I would have to basically like feminize myself to a way to where I look more socially acceptable to men to have some type of sexual market value. If that makes sense. Like, because as a guy, I have sexual market value in the looks department, but it's not really how I go about things. It's not how I get down. Like I can top or bottom, but it's just like I don't like when people take me as like super super masculine. Even when I'm on boy mode, I'm not that masculine. I'm really not that masculine. You know, I'm honestly mostly just childish. I like acting like a boy and a girl, not like a man or a woman. And if I am acting like a man or a woman, it's a certain vibe, you know. But that's all I really had to say about that. I'm just at a place right now where I'm realizing basically like I like gender fluidity, and I don't know if it's that like, I want to be like a macho man with a beard and bully, but I don't think I want that. I think I just want like that feminine man look, like petite, skinny, long hair, like looking like a trap or something like that, like something like that. Like honestly, just because but as being a really tall man and all that stuff, I'm gonna really just be a beautiful man, like one of those anime characters you see with like long hair and stuff like that, like those guy characters. That's how I want to look like. I'm not gonna lie. I want to look like beautiful. Like you're like, oh, this is a very, very beautiful person. You know, I don't want to look any type of burliness, any type of like super hardcore manliness anymore. And I think I'll be best looking like that. You know, and working with that then too. And then some of it, since I've already went there, like I said, like in my mind, I got like basically jealous of women. You know, I'm being like jealous of women to want to be able to transition. That's why I wake up in the mornings and I just say, I hate the fact that I have a penis. It's like, because in my mind I'm thinking I'm horny, I have morning wood. I'm not saying women don't get horny in the morning, but still, it's just like you have this boner, this testosterone, and it's warping your brain. It's like if you don't get any attention from women or sex from women, you're gonna have sex with men. And depending on like your feelings, like your personality, you know what I'm saying, you're gonna take it like a certain side of duality, which is gonna be like femininity or masculinity. And since we are like both the same sex and we're both trying to be masculine at the same time, like, that's like one of us has to give, both of us are gonna give. Like the energy just goes that way. You're gonna like feel feminine, you know. And so it's just like that can make you want to be like, sometimes people get turned out in jail and stuff like that. It's a real thing. Like, I'm just being honest. It's a real human condition. Like men like don't have sex with women or have sex with each other, and then some men are gonna be like feel like so basically some men are gonna bottom and then they're gonna realize that like bottoming is better. Like you last longer, more intense sexual orgasms, like all these benefits, and they're gonna be like, wow, that's how it feels. Like that's amazing, and then they're gonna like appreciate that shit more, and then want to do that shit, and then get really into that shit. It just is what it is. And so it's like, oh shit. And then like all that comes with like completely relinquishing every ounce of masculinity at that particular time, and yeah, or just dominance. I don't say masculinity, but dominance. But yeah, it's a very confusing thing like that. But that's what I'm going through. It's like me realizing that like I'm just this like homosexual. I'm just a homosexual. I'm a real like homosexual. And sometimes I feel like I was born this way, and sometimes I feel like I made myself this way. But I feel like, in so many words, I feel like I was born this way to a certain extent. Like I was predisposed to it. Like, in other words, like if things would have changed, been different, I would have probably not have came out this way. But at least I would have probably maybe like be like a crossdresser with a wife or something like that. But because I never had that, because it's modern times and like the whole 1%er thing, and then women not really like trying to be with any of the guys out here, and then like the women's dating education is like way higher than fucking men's are. The whole game itself is run by women, like it's like it's not as simple as it looks, and being an attractive guy intimidates a lot of women, and a lot of women feel like men are oppressive to women, so they kind of have this like I don't know, it's like equal the playing field on men. It's a whole weird thing, and so like, my whole thing is just like I just feel like it's at a time where it's like you know it's like it's just not. I just never could get with women. Like I love women; they're pretty, but it's just like you can never do it. And I feel like my sex drive when it actually kicked in. I found out so many different things about that, and I feel like anagonophilia. The reason why I feel like this is what I feel like. This is why I feel like all this. I feel like I fucking like got older and like I thought I was straight. Like when I was like a teenager, like pretty much when I was a teenager, that's when I thought I was straight. And my hormones were coming in. I was horny as fuck. I was jacking off to like straight ass porn and shit. Like never did any gay shit the whole time. Like and then became an adult and then like sprinkled some gay shit in there because I was so fucking horny from like lusting after women for so long and not getting any. I was like, I got a hard ass dick that needs to be sucked. So it's like, and I let guys do it. And I started experimenting with guys. And so then it was just like, from there, it was like, I think I like doing this with guys. Like, I'm not going to not do that with a guy. And so it was kind of like, at that point, that's when I was like, oh, like, you know what I mean? Like, I think I like guys. Like, it was have to do with my gender. Like, does it make me gay or anything? And I'm like, I don't know. Like, I found out more about the gay people, and I found out about trans people, and then I was like super attracted to trans people, and I felt like these were like the perfect women for me. I'm attracted to men already, and they're women, and I always wanted to be with women. Perfect, smack them together. Then I actually got with trans women, and I realized, oh, they're women. They're still women, and it had nothing to do with nothing. But my attraction to them made me intrigued with them, and so like I actually did my research on them, and like when I started like hearing what their stories and what they had to say about how they feel about life and shit, like I started agreeing with that shit. And like I don't know, I started feeling that way because I fucking like I don't know, I would go out into the world and I would feel that way. It's hard to explain, but it's like you feel that way. I think it's just like a bisexual type of thing, or just being in between genders type of thing. It's like I would understand where they're coming from and see it and feel like I would deal with it because I wouldn't like since I'm bisexual with the shit. It's like I don't really agree with men all the way on some certain things, and I don't believe, what I'm saying? Like, I'm not like, oh, that's super macho. You're not a man for like doing this shit, or you're not a man for like taking up the ass. Like that's make shit. You know what I mean? So, like, and with women and shit, like, like I don't know, like being like a pretty makes you hot, or slut shaming. I don't fucking know, but stuff like that. Like that's what made me like feel like all this shit. So then like I don't know, like I had like self esteem issues for myself, and I felt like being a girl was gonna like make my life easier because I feel like women had life easier, which I still like believe to a certain degree, but not really. Like they may have it easier. It's just but it's like that's what made me fucking like feel that way, and so like I fucking felt like I wanted like be a girl and shit, because like life would be on like easy mode and shit, and I never really got that. But then behind all that shit became like the whole like okay, like, well, to be a girl, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do that, and then you start realizing you were never raised that way. You don't have the knowledge or the skills for that shit, and then you start feeling like shit, and you start feeling like okay, I need to start doing that now. But then you realize there's a reason why you have never learned it is because society won't allow you to. They don't want you to learn this shit, and so then you start feeling like, man, fuck society, fuck all this shit, and it gives you like a reason to like still be in a negative like mentality, and then like that's why I'm like, oh, I couldn't deal with all that shit. So being trans, being a crosser, all these like labels, I couldn't fucking like agree with them because I wasn't really doing those things. I like saw those things and was like trying to attach myself to it. But now that I've like kind of forgotten about all the labels and kind of just have like lived my life, I just noticed that like when I'm extremely ecstatic, extremely happy with my life, like you know, and I don't want it to feel like shit. Like I'll cross us. You know what I'm saying? I feel like a woman, and that like feeling like a woman turns me on, but it's also based off my sex because it's like I only have sex with men. You see what I'm saying? And so like, and I always top, but still I always have sex with men, and it's like that shit's making me feel like like I lust after men, and I still suck their cocks and all that shit. You know what I'm saying? But it's like doing all that shit makes me feel like a woman. You know? Because when I be around women, when I be around people, like what I get is like everybody thinks I'm like super super macho, like I don't know what to call that shit, but like some guy was trying to do like the little thing where you like slap somebody's hand, like imagine you try to shake somebody's hand, but like you slap it, like and y'all slap each other's hands like a whole bunch of times at the same, like real quick and just He's trying to do that like football player shit with me at work, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like that's not even my vibes. Like I'm not saying I'm like super flamboyant, but like like I'm just normal. I'm gonna be like polite and normal, so I'm just like sitting there like, and I feel like that's something like that's because I'm more reserved, you know what I'm saying? And I just feel like that's not really a fucking masculine trait like that men and these straight men out here be doing. And as much as you would say, oh, gay men do this, they all this stuff, you have to realize those are all like variants. Straight men are just basically just men, regular men. Those are like normal men. And I hate to say it like that, but it's the fucking truth. They know that they have a sex drive that needs to be fucking fed by having sex with women because that's about procreation. You get what I'm saying? We're meant to live with each other like that. Like, we're not supposed to be gay. You get what I'm saying? But a lot of things in life, I think there's birth defects and shit like that changes us into that way, but it doesn't mean that like that's like a bad thing. Like your glands might be secreting certain estrogens, you know what I'm saying? Like in your body and all that shit, that makes you that way. So that's not like a bad thing. It just is what it is. So, because I have a cousin that has like a birth defect. She like has a fucked up arm and it looks fucked up, but she be using that shit like a motherfucker. So, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just kind of like learn to live with that shit. I'm just saying, like, it is what it is. But, yeah, I just feel like because of that, I feel like a lot of times it's like people make it like seem some type of way, but that's like the world we actually live in though. So we can't like make it seem like the LGBT world can be like engulf the real world, The real world's still the real world. And so like that's what I'm trying to say. So I realized like I'm basically like what they would say a sissy, which is like a tomboy, but then like instead of a tomboy, you're a sissy. So I was like, I'm like a sissy, and that's like my true nature is to be like a feminine man. Like I'm flamboyantly, I'm feminine. I'm not really flamboyant. Like I don't have all the sass, that womanly sass. I'm more like cute and gentle. I'm more in those virtuous women, you know what I'm saying, that like have not been corrupted by like society and all that type of shit. Like I'm like a simple chick, you know, and I've noticed that like since I am a man, that masculinity I use, I've been taught, like is what already kind of gives me that I don't need to be so hardcore, you know. But I feel like society and like the world doesn't really see me, and so I feel like for me to express that shit, you know what I'm saying? And sometimes I want to express that shit, like I want to act quote unquote gay. Sometimes it just kind of happens, like especially when you like act that way. I remember when I was a kid and like I answered the phone and I was being super polite, and then like a lot of times people are just like, okay, thank you, ma'am, and I was just like, what the fuck, you know? Like even now, people just look at me like, oh, he's super polite, like. You know, I'll do something and they'll be like, why are you touching this so gently? Like, they're like, oh my God, why are you touching it so gently? Like, why you act that way? You know, like, and people are wondering, like, why you act that way? Like, why you feel uncomfortable around females and all this shit? Like, it's because you're intimidated, sexually, you're overwhelmed. You're like, oh, I gotta, like, be attracted to her. I gotta do this shit. You know, it's a lot of pressure on you because it's something that you really don't care to do. You know, and I realized like that's what it is. Just it's all just kind of coming together now. Like, you know, like it's a lifestyle thing. You can't really just. It's like who you are. And like, yeah, I was like, man, I wanted to be with women and all this shit, but now it's like I really realize I'm still a fucking immensely attracted to women. You know, I'm actually really pansexual. So it's like, you know, I'm attracted to women and all that type of shit. But it's like I realize now that like I really can't be with them. You know, I can't really be with them because women want to be like dominated, and I'm like, I don't even like being like dominated. You know what I'm saying? Like, not really. Like for me, it'd be more like I like being like seduced, you know, more than dominated. Like I don't know, that makes sense? Like, because if I'm gonna like suck somebody's cock and shit, like, or do something with a man and take the bottom position, like what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna just do it. I'm not gonna like, you know, like make a big like I don't know, like you know how women like leave it open for you to like mess them. No, like I'm gonna push it back up on you or type shit. Like I'm gonna push it on you, you know. And that's how I see shit. Like so, it's like I don't know, like. I know it's like with women, it's like, and that's what you get with men because it's the same sex, the testosterone, the same sex drive. So that's why even transsexuals be having like perfect sex drives. Because when that's why I had sex with transsexuals and I never had sex with a fucking woman because it's like the sex drive. Like I have to like my mind has to go there. Like yeah, like she saw what she wanted, I saw what I wanted, and I was like, bam, we did that shit. You know, with women, it's like hold on, there's a whole checklist. There's like her whole mental like life has to like here's my life. You know what I'm saying? Are you gonna help me fix my life? Like that's you know what I'm saying? Like on the spot type shit. Like it's weird like that. Like, you know, with women but like with I don't know, I'm just saying with males it's just the sex drive is just it's there, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what you want, you're not like gonna be confused about that shit. Well, that's just my experience, how I see shit. So it's like I realize like because I mean every time, you know? Like with a guy, even if it's like he doesn't even want me, you can clearly see like guys have made their own decision. Even transsexuals, like they've made their decision. You know what I'm saying? Like they made their decision. It's like, but motherfucking like females, they don't have nothing to fucking offer and shit. You know, like and then like I guess I realize now it's because women get pregnant. You know, so it's like that shit's like scary. So they're gonna be with you. They have to like be with you. So I was thinking like that's true. Transsexuals don't think like that. And gay people don't think like that. And I was like, well, there you go. Like that's the whole reason why it's such a all this is a big deal. It's because women get pregnant. So it's like an offense to like that type of mentality of pregnancy and like having kids and shit to like be LGBT or whatever. Right? So that's the whole reason why people be hating us and shit. But I realized that shit now. I realize like, but that's just me though. That's my situation and shit. But it's not like we're doing this shit on purpose. You already know that shit. We're not doing that shit on purpose. It's who we are and shit. And y'all gotta accept that shit. It's not no offense to anything. Actually, in all honesty, it's as adoration because it's something that we live in, but we're not. You know, it's like we're expressing that we love. We love life and love. But and that's all that shit is. Just like any other thing with sex is, you know, or gender or something like that. But yeah, it's like that's what I'm going through now, and I feel like now it's like I don't really feel like a girl because I realize now I was raised as a man. I was raised to be a man. You see what I'm saying? So it's like my like some of my thought processes are still like very warrior like and like you know like stop them. I feel like Ragnar from Vikings and shit. But then like a lot of times I don't be feeling like Ragnar from Vikings. When I get girl mode and shit, like I feel like Powerpuff Girls, like that's what I was into. I was a kid. I mean, I fucking loved Powerpuff Girls. I watched like Totally Spies growing up, like action females, like Tomb Raider. I remember playing the game Tomb Raider. Like I loved like action hero females and shit. Like I really like vibe with those type of characters and shit. You get what I'm saying? And like for my manhood, like I feel a lot of warrior ass characters and shit like that as a young adult and an adult now. But when I like get into this mode, okay, and I'm not like cross dressing anymore. It's like who I am, but just like that's when I express. It's like when women don't put on makeup and look all like snatched. Then you know what I'm saying? You can easily just be like, all right, that's how I feel. Like I feel like when I do makeup, I do makeup. I feel like the same with women when they feel like they get butch or they dress like masculine. Like that's when I'm dressing masculine. That's what I'm asking. And I feel like that's kind of how I am. It's just that I'm a man. So I have to do like a few different things. I have to like keep up. I have to like somehow keep this synergy in the middle, and that's who I am now. You know what I'm saying? The only real fear I have is just like I don't know how feminine, like what is too feminine, and like what's not too feminine. And I'm still kind of like I don't even wear shorts. Like that's how like you know how like I put myself in this prison. And that's what I was gonna say before. That's what I think Anagana feel is. I think we're all homosexual, all transsexuals, all gender like fluid people or whatever. We're all really transgender. Like you know what I'm saying? We all want to be transsexuals. But I feel like that only happens because we are either chemically already predisposed as children, and on top of that, I feel like it varies. So some people more than others, so of course. But still, I feel like we look politically, we look at the world, and we see that the hierarchies of men and women, and like the pros and cons of these so-called hierarchies. But it's really not hierarchy. It's more like right here, like this way. Instead of being on top and bottom, it's like side to side. And so like people make their choices based off what side they're on. You know, like oh, so they like decide to change their gender when they're a kid. You know, so they might like act feminine because they see the pros and cons of that shit, right? And so I feel like that's really what it starts off as type shit. And then I feel like based off of your conditioning that you grew up with, how you were raised to believe, you know, to survive and to the rest of the world around you, that's how like you know what I'm saying, it mixes with that, and that's really what classifies your gender based off your adulthood when you're an adult. And like, okay, you're an adult now, like how is that coming together for you living as an adult based on where you live? And I feel like that's really what matters. Like that's where the lines draw, you know. And I feel like based off of you not allowing yourself to feel those feelings, that's what creates anagonophilia, because you have to detach yourself from these actual feelings. That's why it's like you feel like you have to turn into a female. That's why I feel like I'm gender fluid right now, because that's how my mind is actually working. Like every time I've ever acted feminine, I remember being like a teenager and I ended up fingering myself one day. I was watching porn and I think I jacked off and I was still horny in some way, and I don't know, I just fingered myself and I bled. And I was like, afterwards, I was wondering like, why the fuck did I finger myself? Like, no, but my mind After that's all I thought about it, and I like took that thought and like threw it in the trash. I threw it in the corner like some dirty clothes, right? It's like I didn't even care about it. I didn't think about it anymore. And now it comes in my brain now. I'm like 20 years later. Is it like 20? It's like 10, 15. It's like 15 years later. It's like I'm realizing, like, man, it's because you wanted some dick. Like your brain didn't say, "Oh, this is an asshole." Like things don't go up your asshole. Like you wanted to be penetrated. That's just what happened, and it happened. Like, and then you're a male. You have a prostate. Like that's what happened. So you know what I'm saying? Like it mind blows you. Like how you be having these feelings. You're like, oh, like I'm gay. That's a gay. Like straight guys don't like looking at a porn magazine as a teenager and then like end up fingering themselves. Like you're looking at girls, not guys, girls. You know, you're looking at girls too, and you're like, and you end up fingering yourself. Like you're on gotta feel it because you want to have the sex that they have, and you agree with all those things, but because you're taught that you're not supposed to do that because it doesn't make any sense to do that, you're like, why would I even do that? So then your mind says like, okay, fuck that shit. But then like to feel those feelings that you feel like you have to do those things. You get what I'm saying? And so that's why it's like you don't have to do those things the way they do it. But in a sense, so many words, like what else are you gonna do? It's the conventional way of seeing things. You get what I'm saying? So if women are the representation of femininity and you want to feel feminine, you're gonna act like a female. You see? So with that being said, that's why it's like, oh, and you try your to not act like a female because the straight community, all they do is do that shit all day. Like girls, you're acting like a man, you look like a man, you're a butch. Da-da-da. Man, oh, you look like a bitch, you're a sissy. Da-da-da-da. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we're taught to like not do that shit, which fucks us up because we don't act like how we want to act. You know, like we don't act how we want to act, and everybody thinks it means something. Like it means like, and I understand where it comes from. I get that completely. Because it's true. You know, but the sad thing is, it's not really as bad as people make it is nowadays if you think about it. Because yeah, it might make you look like you're defeated as a person, but in reality, you're not. Like really, in reality, you're not defeated as a person. You're really like expressing. It's almost kind of like one of the situations where of chaos and order. To make order, you have to have chaos. You have to like destroy something to build something up. If you have anything in the way, if you have a house, an old house in the way, and you got, you know, you want to build a new house, you got to tear that house down and build a new house. And so that's kind of the whole thing. Like, so we're at a place now where it's like people are going to be acting more gender fluid, if you will. The people will be acting more gender fluid. So men are going to be acting a little more feminine, what you're seeing, and women are going to be acting more masculine. Obviously, we're seeing that. So, I mean, that's kind of the whole point of the situation right now, right? It's like a new exploration. So that's what I'm feeling right now. I just feel like I am like female, but I feel like I'm not definitely a female. You know what I'm saying? Like I feel like I'm literally transgender, and I feel like I'm going to completely, fully transition one day, type shit. Like, you know. But I'm taking it slow as fuck right now at my own pace, to where like right now I'm just getting comfortable with like being as trans as I can be, gender fluid wise, like cross dressing wise, you know. But at the same time, like I'm really striving for a better feminine appearance, but at the same time, my neutral appearance to be more feminine too. You know, like I want to like lose weight, clear my skin. You know, just start getting shaving constantly, learning how to shave properly, even getting some laser hair removal. Certain places getting laser hair removal. I mean, because sometimes I would like look at pictures of before and after pictures on the internet of like facial feminization surgery, like just looking at that shit, looking at like voice surgery, and is it like really like legit? Can I do that? You know, and how to lose weight, you know, in the right places and what exercises to do. Like I'm constantly looking at these things, and it's making me feel like this is something I need to do. I'm looking it up. Why would I not be like trying to do that shit? You know. So it's like that's what I'm realizing. But then it's like it's not for the same reasons anymore. It's not because I think women are better than men. Women have it easier. Like God just like favored women or something like that. You know. I'm looking at it more like now where it's like I just am that way. at this point. Like I've only had sex with men, like literally only had sex with men, literally. And it's like I walk in a room and people think I'm straight. People think I'm like this hardcore Rastafarian warrior, you know what I'm saying? Just like that type of guy, you know, like, and it's like, no, I'm like not that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm literally not that. Like, I'm fucking homosexual. And it's like, people wouldn't even like know. They would just think like you're a guy. And it's because of the way I sound, the way I look, come across, like, it's like you're a straight up guy and I'm male, you know? But it's like, no, you know? Not at all. Like, I don't want to give that appearance of like, yeah, I remember a girl told me one time, so do you like fuck him or do you date him or some shit? And I was like, what the fuck? Like, so she's already assuming that I get like bitches. Yeah, I'm attractive, but like I've never had sex with a woman. Like, what the fuck, you know? And that's what they don't understand. It's like, that's why it's like, my God, you know? But let's say you're like, I'm pretty, like, but like a woman or look feminine. Like, at that point, you be niggas, you know, men have like, you know, they men are more. I mean, damn! I just posted on Instagram a few days ago, like, you know, and it's like I got a lot of dick pics, you know, like if people are not even in my city to like to show me their dick, like men, you know, that's how they are. Like they're horny and they're lonely. They're gonna like be attracted to almost anything, and then like they're literally gonna try to fuck that shit. And if they enjoy it, if it wasn't like oh I couldn't, you know, then they're gonna do it again, you know. And I think that's really what it is. I think a lot of guys are really just attracted to the femininity, and then they like if they can get their dick in you, and like you know what I mean, if they can fuck you like, and it was like a real like you know they were like oh wow like I put that in there and like I went to work, you know, like yeah. Like they're gonna feel like okay, like I put it in his mouth and like it worked, you know. That then they're gonna be like, oh okay, yeah, like that shit's real. Like we could do that shit anytime, like you know, because that's how the brain registers sex, you know. It just takes women a little longer to get there, you know. That's why it's like okay, because they're getting penetrated and shit. So it's like I understand that same thing, but for men it's not. Like we'll try to penetrate ourselves, we'll try to penetrate it, you know, because the sex drive. But yeah, I'm realizing now that I'm really just gay. Like it's almost kind of like now I'm getting to a point where it's like I'm jacking off to like other transvestites, you know, trans women, um, guys, you know, and it's like I don't even look at like that shit no more like as pussy or what they call it boy pussy and all that shit. Like that's not that's real pussy. Like think about it. Like men and women get penetrated, but only men can do the penetrating. That means men and women both have pussies and so many in the figurative aspect, you know. So it's like that's pussy. It satisfies just like pussy, you know. Not some reproductive shit. That's a whole other story. But yeah, you know. And even nowadays they have this bioengineering and shit that they're trying to work on. So it's like they're trying to make babies without like humans and shit like that. So it's like, come on, you know, like they already got all these genders out here. It's like it's already done. It's like it's kind of done. Like we're at a different like evolution in time. So it's like I'm learning all this shit now, and it's making me realize like, oh, like that's the way that is. So like now I realize I'm basically I am a gay male who is very transvestic. That's transvestic, and that's like literally just that. Like I don't know how to explain that. But the only thing about it for me is I'm going through a transition because like when I fucking was like a young adult, like I wanted to be like Rastafari all the way. I'm still Rastafari like in the thought process and in some ways, right? But like I wanted to like have like that big old you know what I'm saying, Vikings, like Ragnar when he died and shit, that big old beard. Like I wanted to have like a big old beard, big old locks on my head, you know, like never shaven and whatnot. You know, I want it to be like, but then you see some. I wanted really long locks, and I wanted like to be extremely skinny. Like not wanted to be skinny, but like I wanted to look like healthy, like be vegan. Which I'm working on currently, but whatever. So it's like that's what I wanted. You know, and just to have this like hippie like lifestyle, feeling free and like, living beautifully, and everything's beautiful, and just you know, and that's what I wanted. And like a lot of that is feminine. The only masculine part of that is just allowing your hair to all your body to grow. Other than that, like that's it. And so now I'm realizing like, oh, it's because you wanted to look feminine. And then for me, I got more into out of the white magic side, the natural side of things, and we kind of more manipulation, mind manipulation, or whatever. So like like magic, if you will, dark magic, if you will, which they say is like like singing, anything you manipulate that can create something new and stuff like that. Add chaos to the order. So and then that's how that was. So like makeup really did that, and I knew that already with Rastafarian. That's why Rastafarianism is strictly like no makeup and shit like that, because it's to go to learn like what you are, so you can basically manipulate that. You can't even manipulate yourself if you really don't understand yourself. That's why like I went to whole researches about everything, like what foods to eat to give you more estrogen, all this other shit. Like I've learned so much shit to where it's like if I really strictly went on that shit, like I'd be on some other shit. But yeah, and that's what made me take like black collash, like the menopause pills and all this shit, because like I was trying to like reduce the testosterone, and then I learned like these roots have like certain testosterone blocking properties, and so I was like taking the pill form of those things, like, and it just fucked up my liver, because like there's certain chemicals in the pills that are made for just women because they're really sold as menopause pills, and so like since you don't have like a period, it's like you're gonna get like fucked up, like in your body and shit. And so like I was taking it to really to feminize myself, and it was not really giving me fat in the right here. It made me fat as hell, but it didn't like give me the fat distribution. So like my liver became really fatty, and that had a lot of problems. And then and also the lack of testosterone was like making me really emotional. So I was drinking and like really depressed and all this other shit. So it was not working out for me. So I had to get off of that, and so that's what I'm saying. Like the best thing is to go to like a real doctor and get some real prescription hormones that are gonna like actually first of all feminize you, and number two actually like give you some type of like shape. So long story short, like yeah, that's pretty much what in a nutshell what I'm going through right now. I just realized about this shit. Like I just realized like I'm really like a trans woman, but I'm not gonna like, oh, I'm trans woman now. I gotta change. Like, I'm not gonna do that shit. I'm gonna do everything very slowly, and I'm just starting to shave. I'm gonna shave constantly, and I'm just gonna try to feminize myself as a crossdresser as much as I possibly can. Practicing cross-dressing basically, and at the same time, I'm not gonna deny it anymore. I'm not gonna be like, oh, I'm not gonna cross-dress. Like that's weird. I don't give a fuck anymore about who sees me. Like I'm gonna just do that shit. Other than my car, I gotta fucking get used to it. So then, like, that's number one. Number two, I'm really gonna